All right, this is absolutely crazy. It is February 20th in Texas, and 75 degrees, 78 degrees, or something like that out here right now. Um, let's talk about putting. Um, I've been wanting to do this because what I'm figuring out is that the old school way of learning about putting is it's not being talked about anymore. I don't understand why. Sorry, I'm trying to get this camera right here, everybody. There we go. Yeah, a lot of leaves around here, but um, what happened to teaching people about putting? I don't understand. Because it's kind of ingrained in me. I've always thought about it the same way because I was taught it and I adhered to it. And let me just pick a stupid example. Pro side. Does everyone know what that means? You miss it on the pro side or you miss it on the amateur side. Um, I don't even hear it said on TV anymore. Well, maybe occasionally, but you the putt should be breaking into the top of the hole, regardless which direction it's breaking in from. You should never miss low, or that's never. That's not true. Most of the time, the ball has the best chance of going in the hole if it's coming at the hole from the high side. So what does that mean? So if you've watched puttingsimple.com, you've bought the series and you've watched it, you know that you're going to have less lip outs. It's a byproduct. It's not the goal. We're not trying to have less three putts. We're trying to get the ball going in the hole at the proper pace based on the clock reading that I talk about in the green reading section. And therefore, if you've gotten some things married up, like it's never perfect. That's not the thing about putting. It it's actually kind of frustrating to me because so many people judge success as being a good putter on whether it goes in the hole. I'm going to come back to that, but less lip outs is really if you have a lot of lip outs and your speed's off, your thought pattern about where it's the apex area is and it's turning and looking for the hole. I call it turning the corner and looking for the hole. It's off because lip outs, I mean, you're going to hit the hole and miss it. I mean, that's part of golf. But the reality is, a lot of times, if you've got the right speed and you've got the right read, that ball will kind of fall in. It'll. My college coach used to say the hole would like suck the ball in, like it just pulls the ball in, versus rejecting it, like just spinning out of corners, tearing the side or the back door off the hole, because you got the wrong speed. So that's that's a byproduct. Having less lip outs is a byproduct. Having less three putts um, is a real thing. That's a real thing. So um, I was having this conversation with a guy that's becoming a good friend of mine, and he's watching all the stuff on puttingandsimple.com, and he said, I never thought of it that way. I never thought of it that way. And I said to him, how many times have you seen me three putt? And we've played probably, I mean, I don't want to exaggerate. We've probably played 40 rounds of golf together. And he couldn't recall one. I couldn't recall one either. So Does that mean I don't three putt? Of course it doesn't mean that. That'd be crazy. Three putting is a part of actually putting well. I've said this before. I'll hat tip to Brad Faxon, said that most, if not all, of his great putting rounds involve the three putt. Well, why is that? Because if you're feeling it, if you're rolling it, if you're solid in your process that day, and you're seeing the reads and every the must-have mechanics and just nailed in, and you're going to hit a couple past the hole. Now, I would venture a guess, and someday I hope to have Brad on, and we'll talk about this. The reality is, if he's talking about an acceptable three putt in a round of golf where he's okay that he had one, even though he might end up with 26 or 27 putts total for the round, it's always going to be the three putts because he ripped it past the hole on the first one. That makes sense, right? You're not afraid of anything. There's no fear involved in it. So you're just rolling the ball, thinking you're going to make everything. Most of the time in those kind of rounds, he is. So he ends up with a three putt because he hit it 4 feet by and missed the one coming back. And that is no big deal. That's no big deal. The reason I did this video today is it was on my brain for my round on Sunday, which I would call it pretty much an average putting day, in that I hit a lot of really good putts. Some went in, some didn't. But I think if you want to really be a good putter, really like it sinks into your brain, you have to recognize that you're never going to have 18 putts. There's going to be many a day. I mean, you have to accept the fact that misses are a part of it. And that's the hardest part, because you have to like recoup immediately and it's like, okay, well, it didn't go in. And this is the part about putting that's kind of not been discussed much either, even since Dave Pelz's Short Game Bible, is it's an imperfect surface. The surface between you and the hole is completely imperfect. I say this multiple times throughout puttingissimple.com and the lesson modules. But you can't assume, in fact, it would be detrimental to your confidence if you assume that you hit a great putt and it should go in. You're not in control of that. I wish we were. That would be great, on a perfect surface and nobody had walked on it and it was, beginning to end, that putt's never going to see any bumps or ball marks or footprints or whatever. Again, hat tip to Dave Pelz on this one, but he talked about, as the day goes on, think about this. So think about this. People walk up to their putts, their first putt, their second putt, doesn't matter, and they walk around the hole. They're walking around the hole. They don't step right on the hole. Hopefully they don't. They don't step right next to the hole. They step like this far from the hole. And that's how they pull the ball out of the hole or pick it up if it's a gimme or whatever. So what happens? The whole area from 8 feet, I think Dave did this analysis, from 8 feet to 2 feet from the hole, all the way around it, 100% the way around it. Because as the day goes on, people are putting from different directions. They're picking up the ball different places, but they're all walking up close to the hole, but not standing on the hole or not stepping right next to the hole. So they've got, they're leaving an area about that far from the hole where they step and they pick it up. And all that produces is pressing down, pressing down, pressing down, pressing down, pressing down, all the way around the hole. So now you've got compression of the earth as the day goes on. The the soil itself is being pushed down from all the weight that's being stepped on. And now the ball getting to the hole later in the day specifically has to navigate all that. It's got to work its way through all of those footprints, impressions, ball marks, unrepaired ball marks. It's got to get through all that stuff, and then it's got to climb up to a flat spot that's about that far around the hole. That far around the hole. And he accurately described that as from 8 feet to 2 feet from the hole, all the way around the hole. As the day goes on, increases and increases and increases in compression, which means it's slower. And then the ball has to get up, go across the flat spot, and find the hole. And he called it the lumpy donut. The donut, the round, the whole thing. It's perfect. So the point about putting is this. You can have a perfect stroke. You can have a perfect read. You can have a perfect strike. And it still might not go in. But in order to be a good putter, long term, like stay with it. Like I'm going to get better at putting and I'm going to stay good at putting. In order to be that player, you're going to have to get used to the fact that it's not going to go in all the time. Because I did this thing. So I didn't even like the way that it turned out. So I'm going to tell a story here. I didn't like the way that it turned out because I was doing a putting session with a high school team here in Texas. And I was trying to get through their heads, into their heads, and understand that the goal is always, always, always will never change, giving the ball a chance to go in the hole. You're not in control of whether it goes in because of the imperfect surface we just discussed. So if you're going to accept that, you have to get good at saying, well, it didn't fall. And I love watching the ball fall. Everyone loves the sound that it makes when it hits the bottom of the hole. But the reality is, that's not the goal. The goal is to give it a chance to go in. And so I was trying to give them, and this is actually in on-course execution portion of puttingissimple.com, is I was trying to give them an understanding that the goal is to trigger, to look at a target, not spend too much time staring back at the ball, but hit the ball. As soon as your brain comes back to the ball and hit it, it'll remember where that is, and regardless of whether you have a perfect line or a perfect, it doesn't matter. Perfection doesn't matter. You're just using a trigger. You're like, I've always used this analogy of throwing you wad up a piece of paper and throw it into a trash can. If you don't think about it, it goes in. As soon as you think about it, it doesn't go in. And we have all been through that. So I was doing this thing, and I had 5 balls lined up, and they were like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 golf balls. And what I did was I was just trying to teach them trigger. And I'll be darned if they didn't watch where the ball went every single time. And in this particular thing, it was over at Indian Creek here in Carrollton, Texas. I'll never forget it. I hit all 5 of them. I hit it, look down, hit it, look down, hit it, look down, hit it, look down. All 5 of them went in. And they thought I was the greatest putter they'd ever seen. They're like, that's not the point. The point wasn't whether they went in or not. The point was I was giving them understanding that the most important thing in your brain is to see the target, come back to the ball, and hit the ball at the target. Whether that's your apex area or Tiger still looks at the hole. I mean, according to him, even if the putt breaks 4 feet, his last look is at the hole, which Earl taught him to putt to the picture in his picture in his mind, moving picture, was the ball was rolling in the hole. So that kind of makes sense because you wouldn't be looking away from that, or you wouldn't be looking at a target other than the hole where the ball's rolling into if that's the goal. So whether your trigger is an apex area, as I talk about, or maybe it's even, something a few feet off of a foot off of the putter that you're going to hit. That's your intended starting line. We don't talk about the line in puttingissimple.com because that's too confusing. Because the line means there's the speed, which means you have to be perfect at both of those to make the putt. And that's definitely not true. So being a good putter is about accepting the fact you're not going to make all of them. They're not all going to go in. But your execution of reading the green, setting up properly, your short checklist, your on-course execution, your commitment, your delivery of the energy through the shoulders being the engine of the putting stroke, those are the things that matter, and those are the things that produce 28 to 32 putts max. That's it. 28 to 32 max. No way ever should there be more than 32 putts in a round. We got to reset that in our head because we're taking strokes away from par. In traditional regulation golf, they're going to give you 36 putts, 18 holes times 2. No, we always have to be taken away from that. We got to reset that. We got to bring that down, and let's make 30 the goal. 28's a good day. 26 is a fantastic day, regardless of how you hit it. So why not? Why not reset the expectation? I'm going to miss greens. That'll be over par from a ball striking perspective. And then I can pull that number down in putting and make it back to even par or better. And that's it for now.